Call to order the City Council work session for the City of East Grand Forks for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. City Clerk, please call roll.
Mayor Steve Gander.
Here.
Council President Mark Olson.
Here.
Council Vice President Tim Riefel. Here. Councilmember Glenn Gutter. Here. Ben Huttunen.
Present.
Dale Helm.
Here.
Brian Larson.
Here.
Karen Peterson. Here.
Does turn quorum. Number 1, review of bid results for 24 City Project Number 1, the SCADA system improvements. Mr. Emery.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. So we opened bids this morning at 10 a.m. for the 2024 City Improvement Project. We did receive 2 bids. I did hand out a copy of the bid tab. I don't know if I got to want to read, but again, right now, looking at both, or the total bid, I guess, project cost came in about 10%. Sun Electric out of Fargo is the apparent low bidder. I did reach out to Pete Nelson with IPS, who we sub-consulted with on this project. He said they do have a lot of experience with Sun Electric. Said they're a top-notch contractor. He did think that maybe the reason cost came in a little bit over budget was I think there was 3 different control panel builders that were in the spec. Only one of them quoted the project, so he's thinking there's probably the reason they were over budget a little bit. But he did say the control panel contractor that did provide quotes or whatever to the generals, he said they're very good too. So again, he felt if the city is to award the project, again, we got good subcontractor, good supplier type thing. So again, I think we would, again, I think Jason's kind of told you too. A bulk of the cost is really for the stormwater lift stations, and really not much has been done with those lift stations since they were constructed. So I think at this point, it's definitely a need to get them upgraded to make sure we have good lift stations in the time of a flood. So with that, we'd be making the recommendation, I guess, to award the project to Sun Electric in the amount of $336,450.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Emery?
Just a question, just curious, where's H&S, where are they out of?
They're out of Grand Forks.
Oh, they are in Grand Forks?
Yep.
Okay. Just wondering.
Mr. Larson.
What would be the funding source for the overage?
Well, I guess I know, the plan was to use wastewater, stormwater enterprise funds, so Jason, I guess you have sufficient funds to further.
Yeah, we would be probably taking a little bit on each enterprise fund. Split up the cost per the lifts. Whichever one was more expensive, I guess. We'd figure out where. If stormwater was more expensive, we'd probably take a little more on a stormwater, and we do have reserves of both wastewater and stormwater to cover it. So.
Thank you.
I think, Brian, when we came forward to get authorization to move ahead with plans and specs, prior to having full plans and specs, I think IPS was estimating about 350 to 400 at that time. So, so we are, kind of within budget to, just a little bit above what their estimate was after completing plans and specs. But I think overall we're within what we were anticipating.
And just one other thing to add too with the stormwater stuff, there's features that we, in the old SCADA system, we never really used. We didn't have a use for. So in this upgrade, we're only upgrading things that we actually used to kind of cut the cost back. So it's not going to be exactly the same as it was before, but it will have everything we need to give us early warning systems and operate the system the way it should.
Anybody else have anything? I see none, sir. Thank you so much. Number 2, consider contract project closeout for 22 City Project Number 6, Hawk System. Mr. Huttunen.
All right, thanks, Mr. President. And hopefully Mr. Gallstead, Mr. Emery will be able to help answer any questions on this item. This is, you all know, the Hawk system install that went in on Bigland Road. It was scheduled to be completed in August of last year, 2023. There was a pretty significant delay in some of the materials, the pedestal poles for the signal crossing system that were largely delayed, and the project was not completed until January 23rd of this year, so about 157 days beyond the substantial completion date by the contract. There had been some discussion as we were given updates to the council last summer and fall on timeline and where the materials were about the liquidated damages. If we would, per the contract and the number of days the project was delayed, the liquidated damages clause was $900 per day, so that adds up to about $141,000 if you went right by the letter of the law of the contract. And this project was a total bid amount of $293,000 for, I don't know what the cost of the material was for the poles, but insignificant over the large cost of the entire project. So as I've looked at this with Mr. Gallstead and had discussions with Mr. Emery, one of the things we did is ask the contractors to show proof of when they ordered the materials after the project was awarded, and they did that. They showed a timeline that in early January of 2023, they had sent the order in. Shop drawings were approved in March of that year, and they started construction in that August timeframe of 2023. So it was a significant delay on the manufacturer's part that was unforeseen. In the email we got from the subcontractor that ordered the materials, they said they would expect it an 8 to 10 week lead time, and it turned into a 10-month lead time. So as we've reviewed this and with Mr. Gallstead's guidance, really felt like the contractor did a good job of showing that they had the materials ordered in a timely manner, and that it was an unforeseen circumstance that really was even outside of their control to a degree. So his recommendation, our recommendation would be to be able to close out this project. We're holding about $14,762 in retainage. And our feeling on it at this point is just to close out the full contract amount with them and get the project closed. So open to any feedback or comments anyone has.
Anybody have any questions? Mr. Mayor?
I do think this is one of those moments where we send a message to that contractor as to what kind of organization are we to deal with, and to any other contractor that would deal with us, with a mind of fairness toward, like you say, unforeseen circumstances. I think you could prevail if you went for it, but I think it'd be a pretty poor thing to do. And it's way better if they honored their part of it to the best of their ability, that we don't have to try to push it to the absolute limit. I think that's absolutely the right thing to do.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, thank you so much. Number 3, consider remodel of Community Development, Economic Development Office. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Council President, Council members. We see now as an opportunity to do some remodeling in City Hall. In the past, it was discussed trying to optimize our space, look for areas where we could rent, make more office space. With the EDA director position being filled, we're going to have to do some review. The desk in there needs replacement to begin with. So MPO had approached us this summer as well and asked if they could rent more space at City Hall. Trying to find that space was a little difficult. They wanted to get some more storage back, and then they wanted a larger office space for their director. So put together some quotes for a way to optimize space, make a new, essentially it would be similar to like a new office. So the EDA director's office now would have a door that leads into the MPO. We would leave the door that is there currently so that we would be able to use that space either through our office or through the MPO office. Then we would add a partition so that they would have a full office space for the EDA director. And then just while we're doing that, Brenda's space is quite small. The partitions that are in there now would have to be removed, so we would be adding new furniture for a couple of different spaces. Renting the office space, so when you look at the cost benefit, how are we gonna get the money back from making the doorway and adding the partition? When you look at those two items, we're looking at about $28,000. Right now, the added space that they would add to it, they would pay about $2,600. So if we did a rent increase, which we typically do when their lease is up, we would increase that rent. We could see going up $1 per square foot, and that would add an additional $3,000 to their rent every year. So the payback on that would be about 9 years, so, which seems reasonable, but visited with Reid about it, and we do have some funding in the building maintenance, so just taking it to you to see what your thoughts are.
Thank you. I don't want to see us giving the MPO more office space if it's going to downsize our space that we need for our EDA director and everybody else in that office. If there's room up there to do it and have a sufficient size office, that's fine, but I don't want to see us cut that office out and then cut ourselves short just to rent that little bit out.
No, we're not optimizing City Hall space well right now, particularly the admin office and our office. There's a lot of large open space that we think that we could efficiently make, better use of that space, and then give, more of, less of a cubicle type space and more of a personal office space. And that's what this would do. And it wouldn't, other than cutting the door frame in there, it wouldn't, I'm not adding walls or doing anything like that, so it wouldn't change the structure of the building as a whole. I think if it works out well, they would have their own entrance and exit. And if by chance the MPO decided further down the road they didn't want it, we still have the opportunity for our office to retain that EDA office currently back into our location. So we're making sure that it doesn't close that off, and now it becomes part of the MPO space, and that would have to be rented out with those offices. We're kind of just making more efficient use so that we can use it in a couple of different ways and open that up to another government entity if they ever wanted to come in and rent space from us.
Right, but some of that stuff that the EDA deals with is confidential, so is that office, the new one you're planning on making, is that going to be kind of a...
Full office.
Okay.
With a door.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Mr. Helms, if I could just add to that too, the MPO has the wall that we're proposing that we would put in. It's a temporary wall that could be removed as quickly as it goes up.
Yep.
The MPO has one in their office now to make one office into two separate offices.
Okay.
If you're interested in seeing what that looks like, stop by. We can just swing up and look at it. It
Okay.
really is impressive in the way that it creates private spaces for each employee to work. That's what we'd be proposing, to create an office for the EDA director.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would still give them some storage space on their own. They would have access either through the sliding door or through we have like a back storage room, and then that also has a door on it too, so that could be closed. So they would have their own complete space, entrance and exit, the whole bit, so.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you. I remember a guy about 15 years ago by the name of Mike Pukshavinsky who wanted to lease out more of our city hall space to other entities, and it didn't really take off. I know we've been able to do some of that when we brought in some other government services, and I guess I feel this is a good move. If the MPO needs a bit more space, that's great. If we have identified other spaces that we're not using as efficiently as we could, that it would be a good thing. Again, making sure that it's government-related services. I don't think we want to bring in a lot of private sector kind of stuff. But as long as it's a government service and we're putting the word out, we may have other spaces that we could use more efficiently. and help City Hall to break even on a utility standpoint or maybe future maintenance cost, that we could create a fund for more of that. I think it's a really good idea. You can tell Mike I said so.
Anybody else have anything? See none, man.
All right. Thank you.
Number 4, request to host 50th anniversary celebration at the Civic Center. Mr. King.
Thank you, Council President, City Council, and Mayor. The Civic Center Arena is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, marking a significant milestone for our community. To celebrate this occasion, we are proposing to host a 50th anniversary celebration that would also serve as an opportunity to educate our community on the upcoming sales tax in November. This event aims to unite the community in the evening of education, entertainment, and celebration. The celebration will be free of charge for the residents and would showcase live music by the Downtown Horns. It would take place on Friday, October 11th from 5 to 9 p.m. The entertainment would be the Downtown Horns. We do have a fund set aside to help educate the public on the upcoming sales tax vote. We would use funds for that. We would be requesting a total cost of $4,000 to help cover the cost of the band, decorations, promotions, other miscellaneous things that come up. We would also be looking for sponsorships, so $4,000 would be the absolute max that we would spend, but looking for sponsorships and other ways to try to bring in some revenue and just celebrate what the Civic Center has done for our community and try to educate just a fun way to educate the public on the upcoming sales tax. Recommendation would be to approve the celebration, the 50-year celebration. And the only question I would have for the council besides that would be, we're kind of envisioning like a family type atmosphere from the hours of 5 to 9, but also with the opportunity maybe to serve alcohol. Being a city event, we could give a temporary liquor license to a club or someone who would want that, take on that responsibility, and maybe there would be an opportunity there to do some cost sharing with some revenue split, I should say, on some liquor sales for the event.
Questions? Ben?
Thank you, Mr. President. Is this indoors or outdoors?
Indoors, inside,
Indoors.
yep.
Okay,
It
on
would
the
be
ice or?
No ice, yep. This would be the last event. We have the Special Olympics is hosting an event on the 21st of September. This would be the last event in the Civic Center before we put the glass back in and turn on the ice plant.
Okay, so the glass is still down.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Anybody else have anything? See none, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Number 5, review of absentee early voting process for general election. Ms. Nelson.
Thank you, Dale. Okay, so last week I already received my first call asking about early voting. I just want to make everybody aware or try to get ahead of a few of the questions that I know I'm going to be asked. Right now, you're going to hear absentee voting or early voting. In the state of Minnesota, any early voting is absentee voting. So that will require an absentee application be filled out. Residents can do that online on the Secretary of State's website. If they do it that way, an absentee ballot would then be mailed to them, and they could mail it back. Starting September 20th, we'll have absentee voting available for all 5 city wards here at City Hall. We'll have the applications ready to go. You come in, complete the application. We verify your information in the voter registration system. If a voter is not registered, we then have them fill out the registration. So if you know you're not registered, please bring your ID with your current address or an ID with a utility bill. Those are usually the easiest ones to get and show your residency. So it is a little bit of a process just to verify everybody in the system. So if you come and there's a line of people, please just be patient with me. We'll get to you as quickly as we can. With absentee voting, we will not be processing these. When you vote, you'll be entering it into the ballot envelope. We will not be running these through a machine. Once it gets sealed in the ballot envelope, it then gets put inside the signature envelope. So for those that vote by absentee, when they sign this, this is their voter oath. And this is the signature that they count. So we keep these under lock and key. They eventually get transferred over to Crookston, and Crookston actually processes all of these. So none of the absentee votes will get tabulated until after 8 o'clock on election night. So no results will be given, even though you can come in, you can vote, but no results are given until after 8 o'clock on election night. Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware, we will not have machines. If you want to feed your ballot into a machine, all polling places will be open on election day, and that's when you can feed your ballot into the machine. Just trying to make sure that I'm remembering everything. And also, I would like to request, with everything that's going to be going on with voting, we typically have our meetings on Tuesday nights because we can have them, we start at 5, we're done by 6. I have a feeling that both Reid and I will be required to be elsewhere, and I'd like to request that our typical Tuesday meeting get moved to Wednesday. So there are no issues if both of us would have to walk out, just because I know it's going to be a pretty busy day. So, does anyone have any questions? If anyone has any questions about absentee voting, call me, 218-773-2483. Send me an email, mnelson@egf.mn. Any questions about the election, absentee voting, whatever it may be. If you want to verify your registration, you can do it on the Secretary of State's website, mnvotes.org. You can check your registration if you need to update it or if you need to register to vote. All that can be done on there, or give me a call. So, any questions? Okay.
Thank you so much. All right, number 6, discussion on 25 budget. Ms. Anderson and Mr. Huttunen.
Thank you, Council President and Council. We just have an update on where we were with the budget when we spoke last time. And a couple of the changes was that we just found out that coming January 1st, the state of Minnesota's minimum wage is going up, and so we adjusted our part-time employees for those needs. And we kind of explained where we are with the draft. We attached that, we attached a budget brief. And our recommendation would be to set the levy at 10%. If you look at the summary of revenue and expenditures, at 10%, our expenditures would be $37,453 over our revenue. We're comfortable with that right now. If we had to stay with the 10%, for our final levy, there would be some adjustments we could make to balance it out. There are some unknowns, and that is why we want to put it at 10%. We're still working on health insurance, and Reid can update on that a little bit more. And we still are waiting to see how the vote will be in November for the sales tax.
Reid, do you have something?
Yeah, just a couple quick updates. Thanks, Karla, for that. The point of the sales tax comment, I think it's important when we look at our budget goals on an annual basis. One of the first things envisioning on the front page, we talk about planning for projects within the fund balance, and certainly some of the discussion tonight is going to be regarding our fund balance. As it's budgeted this year, for 2025, with a 10% increase, our fund balance would be at a 54%. So what's the value of that, dollar amount value? We're estimating that at about $568,648 for the 4% above 50. And so projects within the fund balance, certainly the uncertainty of what the sales tax vote will bring this fall and knowing some of the upcoming projects there. We've talked a lot about Fire Station number 2 and the planned renovation there. So I just wanted to make sure we included that as we talk about what our desired total percent of our fund balance is within that recommended range of 35 to 50%. How does that additional 4% come into play as it relates to the annual budget for 2025? Does any portion of that get set aside to plan for projects like the fire station or the recreation projects? Certainly open to any questions or thoughts on any of that. On the health insurance side, ICRA, we're making slow to moderate progress on that. We have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the vendor that we would work with that I'm hoping will really allow us to accelerate that discussion with our employees. That should give us a chance to get a lot of the questions that we have received from employees back from the vendor and be able to take that next step. And certainly that's a big moving target still, is our total cost of health insurance and what effect that has on the budget. So again, summarizing, that's why we're, I think right now, recommending a 10% preliminary, and certainly the goal and expectation that we'll be able to lower that when we set the final budget in December.
Thank you. One of the things I want to stress, I would like to leave the reserve at 50%, knowing that next year we have union contracts that are renewed, because we know why we did it that way, because the following year, Family Medical Leave Act, and we don't know what insurance will do the next year for 26. So I think my personal request would be that we leave the reserve at 50% and do those factors of the unknowns. So, anybody else have any comments? Mr. Larson?
Yeah, question on the fire station project again, and I'm probably referencing the 827 packet a little bit. That was a large project it was more costly than the dollars we were bringing in that year into that funding pool. Could you remind me what the cost of that project was compared to the dollars we were bringing in?
We had actually did it in a couple steps. We presented it as one step when we presented in a couple steps. And Jeff Bushy can actually talk about it better, but I want to say it was like 1.1 if we did it all at once. Mm-hmm. And which we would think there would be some cost savings because we would have, they would only mobilize once if we did that. So when we put it into the budget and building maintenance, it's 1.1 in 2026, right?
It's shown in our building maintenance fund as one, just, let's round it up to 1.1 million, but in 2025. And then, that building maintenance fund would be spent into a deficit for a couple of years until it could recoup.
And
so we would need to basically delay other building maintenance projects until that fund recouped its balance.
What were the dollars coming into the building maintenance fund projected for 2025?
400,000 for the annual payment.
That was approved by Water and Light. Water and Light's budget was approved on Wednesday, last Wednesday.
For the 400, you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there another way to strategize that project where we would bring in 400,000 in 2025, potentially another 400,000 in 2026, execute that project, say in 2026, in a better cash position, knowing that we would incur a little bit of inflation as well by deferring the project? I'm just wondering if you could look at that scenario and let us know how that would impact the projected expenses and revenue.
Okay.
You're recognizing the 400,000 for next year already,
Right.
correct? So it'd be only additional 400,000 for the following year.
Yeah, just to see how that would play out, and if we're able to, there's a few moving pieces there. It'd be interesting to see how things would line up better. Then the 10% is kind of a eye-opener, Be nice to be able to come in a little more aggressive at this point and then deliver much lower, of course. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Here.
We know that the budget process is an exercise. We put out a preliminary increase in the levy, a preliminary number, and then we work to bring it down from there. And we'll all have to decide what's our comfort level even on the preliminary number. Each and every one of us will have to ponder that. And I agree 10 is higher than what I would be comfortable with, even as a preliminary number. And yet, if it has to go out there for a time as we continue the process of bringing it down, then so be it. But I can assure anyone listening that it won't be 10 at the end. And it'll be quite a bit less. Okay.
Anybody else have anything doing to help? Karla?
I was just going to answer your question, Brian. So we put the 400,000 in for 25 and 26, 2026, we moved to 2026, we would still be in the negative at the end of 2026 of about $300,000. Which we can do that knowing that we get paid actually the 1st of January, so it would only be that the year end would be at a negative, which we would, on our audit statement, they would just say that the general fund would actually cover any expend any funds that are in the negative, knowing it's replenished within the next month. Okay?
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Entertain a motion to adjourn. By Reid Pell.
Second.
Second by Larson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried.